Hello and welcome back to the complete course of Azure Machine Learning. So, till now, we have created an environment for the data preparation as well as for training to execute it. Now, we have also created a two clusters. The cluster one is for data preparation, and the cluster two is for the training. Now we need to execute two scripts. One is for a data preparation, which will execute in the cluster one, and another script which would be required to execute in a cluster two, right? And once the cluster one would be executed, once the script one will be executed, after then the training will get started. So all both the steps would be dependent to each other, right? So now, before we'll go ahead, we have written two scripts. I just wanted to show you the two scripts. One is for a data preparation and another one is for the training. So here, this one is for the data preparation. It is a small script. What it does, it takes the value or it takes the data from the CSV, created a data frame, and once the data frame has been created, then you will clean it. The data, some data preparation would be required. So what I did it over here, if the age is less than 70, then only we will consider it. For age greater than 70, we would not be doing training. And if the glucose concentrate is zero, this means the value is missing. So we will not take this value. We are removing the null values, right? Because the glucose concentration can never be zero. And once the data is cleaned, we will call the argument object, and then we will pass this clean data into that particular data storage. So what this does it, here, this is the data, the final data frame which has been created, and this data frame we are passing or converting it into the CSV, right? If you'll see over here, the CSV, but where this data will get resides. So this data will get resides into the data set. So here we are creating an output folder, and then we are passing this output folder into diabetic clean.csv, right? Similarly, once my output data is stored it into this folder, my training data, what it does, it takes the value from the runtime as an from the input folder. So for that, it would be an input folder, correct? So once the input folder is being created and the data is coming from the folder from where my output storage is residing it, what we'll do it, we'll take the data diabetic clean.csv from this path and do the further processing. So now my step 1 and step 2 would be dependent on this folder, right? So in step 1, we have cleaned the data and stored it into this data storage. And in step 2, we have taken a data from that storage and do the further processing. Okay, so how to implement these two in a single step, or how to create a pipeline? So here, what we need to do it, we need to first create a default storage. So I'll just write def underscore, this is a default, so workspace dot get default data storage, right? And now I will create a pipeline data. So pipeline or pipe data equals to pipeline. I'll give the name of this pipeline data, which would be anything like pipeline data demo. Correct? And my default data storage would be this one, which we have taken it, right? So just try to execute this, and it will create a data storage wherein the step one will uh, send the output to this data storage, and for the step two, it will pull the data from this storage for the further processing. Now we will create a Python script steps, right? So here, what we'll do, we'll create a pipeline flow one. Here we'll call as a pipeline script step one, where we'll encapsulate this data prep file, right? So data prep.py is stored here. The name of this step would be data preparation, and you see the compute step, the cluster prep. Here, the cluster prep would be the cluster one which we have created for the preparation for the data preparation, right? Once this is done, now what we are doing it, we are passing this pipeline data as a data storage for an argument, correct? So once we'll pass this pipeline data as an argument, now here, if you'll see in a data preparation, it will take this data storage because we have passed it from there. It will pull this, and from the pipeline it takes this data storage as a folder, and whatever the CSV we are creating it, it will insert this CSV, the data clean CSV, into this particular data storage. And the next step will, data train will pull this data from this storage service, right? And similarly, we will be creating a second workflow for training of data, right? So here, my second step would be the train flow pipeline. This we called it as a train model. Now here the compute target would be cluster train. It would not be the previous cluster, right? And this training of this would happen it into this run configuration, because training would need an extra libraries, right? The sklearn libraries and all, so that would be required here. That's why we have created this run configuration for the train. And once that is done, we are passing again this pipeline data, this data, as an input folder. So for the training, it would come as an input folder. It will pick the data which is being prepared by the data preparation step and do the further processing, right? So now my third step would be creating a pipeline flow. So it is pipe flow would be pipeline, the workspace on which the pipeline will run, and the steps would be, first it would be the pipeline flow one. So it is pipeline flow one, comma, the second step would be the pipe flow two, correct? And finally, we will submit this pipe execute is equals to the experiment the which we have created over here, and dot submit, and this pipeline flow, correct? So this is how we would be creating a pipeline in Azure machine learning. So let's execute this first. So it is executed. Now execute this. Now we will execute the pipeline flow. It is executed. Now finally execute your experiment with this pipeline flow, right? So here, if you'll see my pipeline dot executed, it has executed over here, and they created a step data preparation and this, and submitted this pipeline to the Azure machine learning. So let's go to the Azure machine learning and see what my pipeline does it. So wow, my pipeline demo experiment is in a running stage. Here, if you'll see, it is in a running stage, and if you click over here, you will see how it is getting executed. So first the data preparation is getting executed, and once the data preparation get executed, it stores the value in the pipeline data demo, and then my training model will pick the value from the pipeline data storage and execute this train model, right? We can also see individually what is the status of data preparation. So here what do we need to do it? We need to go to the steps, and here you can see here here the steps would contain how many steps we have executed. For this we have executed two steps. One is for a train model and another one is for the data preparation model, right? So let's wait for one of the step will get executed, and then we will see how the other step is executing it. So now you can see my data preparation is completed and my training model is in a queue. So it will take few minutes to execute this training model, and then we'll come back. And my training model process has also been completed. So that is how we can create a pipeline using a same data source by using a pipeline data. Thank you.